288,000 net new jobs created in June. Unemployment down to 6.1%, and that's the lowest it's been since before the Great Recession began. It looks like the good news is busting out all over. Well, until you look at the numbers under the shiny, happy headline numbers. I'm Steve Green. This is Trifecta. Let's bring on Bill Whittle and Scott Ott so we can show you the numbers the White House and the mainstream media don't want you to see. Zero Hedge has the scary-ass chart of those buried numbers, and in the month of June, the U.S. economy lost. That is, eliminated 523,000 full-time jobs, 500,000 full-time workers sent packing. The only reason we saw positive growth in jobs last month is that 800,000 part-time jobs were created, fewer hours, lower pay, and generally in the service industries and not in wealth creation industries like manufacturing. Bill, we haven't seen the economy shed full-time jobs like this since the dark days of the financial crisis, going back 5-6 years ago. Why do people have to go to blogs? Why do people have to go to YouTube videos to learn these facts?
Because how are you going to get your socialism if you don't control the media message, right? I mean, the first thing that happened when the National Socialists came to power was they took control of all the newspapers. Anything that portrayed them in a negative light, anything that brought to light their thuggery or their incompetence or their general mean-spiritedness was just absolutely suppressed, and we're told nothing but the glorious future that was awaiting the new German worker. And that's how you have to bring about this kind of chicanery. You know, those numbers are critical numbers, but even if they weren't there, let's just take the worst case, best case scenario. Let's just say we hadn't lost those 700,000 jobs, full-time jobs. Let's just say we hadn't traded in one engineer for two Taco Bell fry station employees. You still have to ask yourself, what would the job numbers be if the government had gotten out of the way and we had not perpetuated this economic stagnation as we did in the 1930s. It is widely understood by economists everywhere that everything that FDR did in the 1930s not only deepened the Depression, but lengthened the Depression. We saw Calvin Coolidge just a few years earlier do exactly the opposite, cut federal spending and regulation. It was a 2-year mini recession or depression, and that led to the Roaring 20s. So even with these job numbers being what they are, Steve, we have to ask ourselves, what would they be if the government just got out of the way and got these Obamacare regulations out of the way and all of the EPA regulations out of the way and the tax rate down to something manageable? What would it be? We know that the economy, we know that business is sitting on trillions of dollars for 5 years now. We've been talking about this for 5 years. And they don't spend it on things like new factories or fleets of trucks and truck drivers, because God only knows what new regulations are going to come down the pike by presidential whim. And sensibly enough, it seems to me they're sitting on the money. So yes, it's a catastrophe when you trade an engineer for a person working at a fry station. But where would we be without all of this kudzu?
Yeah, folks, if you want a fuller explanation of what Bill was talking about in the Great Depression, pick up Amity Schle's The Forgotten Man. It's a terrific read, very educational. Scott, on Monday, you published a smart piece for PJ Media on how Republicans should use Republican principles to make President Obama look good. And they seem to have done just that. Let me put on Charles Krauthammer to explain. Here's a clip.
These 6 months, which Obama heralds as the fastest growth in jobs in the U.S. since '99, have coincided with the 6 months of which we have no longer extended emergency unemployment, long-term unemployment insurance. Remember at the end of last year, the furious debate, the Democrats, the president saying, if you end this, the sky is going to fall, people are going to go starving, there's going to be increase in unemployment. It's had precisely the opposite effect. In these 6 months, where you ended the extended unemployment, and the conservative argument was if you subsidize something, you're going to get more of it. If you stop the subsidy, you get less of it. So these 6 months coincide with a decrease in the median length of unemployment from 17 weeks to 13 weeks. Yeah. The largest 6-month decline in the length of unemployment ever measured.
Unemployment benefits went down, and so did unemployment. Scott, why do we have to keep relearning this lesson that subsidizing even a bad thing still gives you more of that bad thing?
Well, because it seems like the right thing to do at the time. When you say, oh, well, people are unemployed, we got to help them out through that period of time. And it just overlooks hundreds, if not thousands of years, that if people given the opportunity between a crisis that they have to solve now and a period of time when you can say, you know, just relax a little bit, we'll buy you some time. Hey, every school kid knows this. I mean, when do you study for the big test? When do you complete the big paper? Except for the most disciplined among us, you do that the night before, sometimes the morning of, when that assignment is due. By cutting that, or they didn't really cut anything, but by reducing or refusing to extend the extension of unemployment benefits, we actually force some people to say, I'm sure in some cases, you know what? That job I wasn't willing to take when time pressure wasn't on, I'm willing to take now. And frankly, it is better to have people in the workforce even at lower salaries because of the dignity involved in a human being working. Unemployed, especially unemployed men, find themselves in the most tragic and desperate circumstances. It is the most undignified thing that they've experienced. Getting them real jobs is a step in the right direction.
And there's also the erosion in job skills that happens with long-term unemployment, and you've got to get people back in the workforce. And you know what, folks, there's an even deeper story here, and it's both good news and bad news. The good news is that the American people are still willing to work, and this tired economy of ours is still capable of creating those jobs, even if they aren't full-time. What I'm reminded of, though, is a French law from the year 2000 mandating a shortened 35-hour work week. The reason for the law was that since unemployment was high in France and wasn't showing any signs of going down, they would reduce everyone's hours so that more people would have to get hired to accomplish the same amount of work across the economy. Now, after 5 years of Obamonomics, the United States is becoming a nation of part-time work, even more than France is, and we didn't even have to pass a law to get there. Oh, wait, yes, we did pass a law. It's called Obamacare. Welcome to the new normal, folks. For Scott Ott and Bill Whittle, I'm Steve Green.